So how do I calculate where a tile should be placed? How far from the top of the screen should tile 1, 1 be placed? And how far from the left should it be placed? Let's go back to that document. I want to make a point about it. Let's take a look at this picture. Now, this coordinate grid starts at 0, and responsible mathematicians would start at 0 as well. I like to use 1. I start at 1 though, because I'm the app maker and I get to make these decisions. 1 is more semantic to me. It has more meaning to me. It's that top one, right? And this is the bottommost number. It's my maximum number. I calculate this maximum number in the actual app, so it has some meaning to me. So if you look at this, if you look at 1, 1, let's ignore the zeros, right? If you look at 1, 1, it does not start on the left edge of the screen. It starts in the center. So I'm going to need to center that first tile. And then if I look at 2, 1, how far from the top is that? It's half a tile down. So I need to add half a tile for every additional x value. So let's start with that. I'm gonna, for our purposes, I'm gonna do the calculation inside this concat statement. So, and then later I'll transfer it over to the HTML. Let me do one more thing. I'm gonna copy some more information here. Okay, so I'll copy that. All right. So I have my divider. It has a style. Its position is absolute. It has a left value that I'm going to calculate. Let's do 0 for now. It has a top value, and then it has an ID value. It has a z-index value. So the ID, I can put that in right now because that's already calculated. Let's start with the top. That top x coordinate started at 0. So using the x coordinate, how do I get the number to 0 for that first one? Well, x starts at 1. To get it to 0, I need to subtract 1. And then I said for every additional value of x, I subtract a height of the tile. So I need to know the height of a tile. The best place to figure out the height of the tile is just to save it as a variable. So I'm going to set a variable that I'm calling tile size. I'm going to give it a width, and I'm going to give it a height. I think I have the actual numbers inside the app. So I'll go ahead and grab that. So going back to the original app, I'm going to steal some numbers here. And my finished tile size has this value. And it looks like I calculated a scale as well. So I'll put that in here. So I have a scale, just so I can shrink and grow it as much as I want. I want the height to be half what it normally is, just to squish it a little bit more. So I'll go ahead and run that. All right, So for every additional tile, for every additional x value, I need to add that tile size. Dot height. Okay. So I add that additional tile size. You can see here, every additional x, you see that there's only going to be 10 things because there's only 10 heights. It's hard to tell, but everything's stacked on one another here. Okay. There's a little bit more nuance with the x-axis though, or with the top value though. So let's take a look here. For every additional, the y coordinate affects the top as well. So when I go to that second row, I have to add half a tile height as well. So I add half a tile height for the x coordinate. I add half a tile height for the y coordinate for every additional row that I have. Let's do that. So I go back in here. I'm going to add, and then I'm going to subtract. By the way, I'm going to compensate the y coordinate by subtracting 1, so it starts at 0. For every additional y, I add, or I push the height by half a coordinate. Okay, so everything's staying stacked still, which makes sense. But some of these are lighter. You can see the top one, the text is lighter because it has fewer things stacked on top of it now, with the bottom one darker. Okay. So how do I make sense of this yet? I have to push it from the left, and then you'll see it start to appear. Okay, from the left, before I do that, let's make this pretty, just so that when we finish it, it looks nice. I'm gonna show the picture here. So let's do some HTML to show a picture. Image source, I think it's source equals something. I'm going to make it dynamic. Now I've already got this picture. Okay, I already have the picture there. I need to apply the height to it. So let me remember what that looks like. So I go back to my tiles. I have a style to it. So I go back to that image tag, and then let's see. Let me space this out so it's a little bit easier to see. I have the source, and then I have a style to it. Now the thing is, I transform these tiles a little bit so it's not so square. I smash it a little bit. That way it gives it a little bit more perspective. Okay, we're almost there. Let's calculate the y. And for this, I go back to the document. Okay, so for 1, as I mentioned earlier, the left boundary of this file, of this tile, it doesn't start over here. It starts in the center of the screen, but really, it's like half a tile relative to the center of the screen. Right? I start at the center and then I subtract half a tile. Because left really means the left boundary of the picture. Okay, so let's start there, and then we'll finish up a little bit more. So let's start with, and this one's going to be more involved, so I'm going to space things out. Start at the center, and the center is the width of this this entire control, minus times 50%. That's the center. Oh, one more thing I need to do. This is going to repeat each of those pictures, but I need to describe the entire document itself. So I'm going to apply some, how would I call this? A container. I'm going to wrap a container around this just so it fits the HTML text control a little bit better. So I have a divider at the top. Let me close the divider at the bottom. Okay, what this does is it restricts the picture to this control, to this container. It can't be bigger than this. So this forces this each of these pictures to fit inside the drawing. Okay, let's do a couple more things here. So I start at the center, going back to the document. I'm going to compensate a little bit from each side. So for every additional x, how much is it pushed over? So from 1,1 to 2,1, it's half a tile width over. Half a tile width, half a tile width, half a tile width. So I'm going to add half a tile width for each x. So I'm going to add, and then I'm going to compensate by 1 again. So for the first one, I don't compensate. I'm going to add the tile width to it. Let's take a look. You can start to see things start in the center, and then they start to add a tile width. I'll show you how to resize this control in just a moment at the end. Okay, let's finish this out. There's one more thing to do before things look nice and tidy. For every additional y coordinate, you subtract half a tile width. So for row 1, I'm on that first row. For row 2, I need to subtract half a tile width. And row 10, I need to subtract 9 tile widths. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Subtract half a tile width for each y. So I compensate by 1, and then I subtract a tile width. Okay, let me just double check my math here. So one thing that I did in this app is I compensated things by 50%. There we go. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. If you'd like to see more videos, please like and subscribe.